This video is going to be a commentary about the Ravens re-signing veteran outside linebacker Kyle Van Noy. Just that one signing, at least for me, really cleared up some things in the draft process. I don't know about you and your mock drafts and how they turn out for you, trying to address tackle, corner, wide receiver, interior offensive line, and outside linebacker with quality players that could have an impact from day one. I was just never able to accomplish that feat. In less than 1 month, the Ravens front office is going to be able to navigate the draft without trying to address, at least immediately, outside linebacker. Could they still draft an edge defender, outside linebacker? Sure. If there's a real talented guy there at 113 or 130, or maybe even 93, and all other positions of need have been addressed or met, absolutely. But they've got a good group there. Van Noy, Owe, Ojabo, Harrison, Robinson, Ham. It's a good group. Is it imposing from the standpoint of overall career sacks? No. Name recognition across the NFL? No. Are there other far more accomplished groups of edge defenders, outside linebackers in the NFL? Absolutely. Just in our own division. To put it in perspective a little bit statistically, Owe and Ojabo have totaled 15 sacks in 50 career games. Van Noy, who came to Baltimore late, I think his first game played was week 4 at Cleveland last year, he just gave the Ravens 9 sacks in 14 games played. And a ton of timely, beautiful plays while suiting up, like I said, only 14 times. So comparing those two, at this point, Kyle Van Noy is our most accomplished pass rusher and the guy we expect to get the most production out of. That still ends up being a somewhat scary proposition for some Ravens fans. One thing I do want to mention before some of the film, and I don't want to spin this in a negative way because I really like this signing. Look, Van Noy is one of my favorite players to watch film of. That's a very long list at this point, but I feel like I learned things from watching Van Noy film, particularly the end zone angle, things that he's looking at pre-snap, late movements that he'll make in his alignment that I think kind of tells you or gives you a hint at times that he understands the play or concept that's coming. Van Noy can do everything. He does everything well. In some ways, he reminds me of Kyle Hamilton in that regard. I know those are two totally different players. Kyle Hamilton being one of the best safeties in the league, but Van Noy has a wide tool set, a large number of things that he can do, and he accomplishes all of them with a high degree of efficiency and physicality and speed. Can he rush the quarterback? Yes. Execute stunts very well. Drops out and covers well. I'll show you some examples of him tipping passes. He makes big tackles. But if you look at the snap count from 2023, I think it should give us a little bit of pause about expecting too much. After his first 4 games, this is Van Noy's week-by-week stats, which I've kind of cut and pasted together so you can see the snap counts over to the right with the production for sacks, tackles, TFLs, quarterbacks, hits, etc. I omitted or cut out the forced fumbles and fumble recovered column. About 35 snaps per game generally after the first 4 weeks. But you see his first game played 23 snaps, then 31, 32, 33, and then there was an uptick. It makes sense. In 2024, these other guys, Tavius Robinson, Ojabo, if he's healthy and ready to go, Owe, they're going to need reps, experience, opportunity to make plays. They deserve it. There's film of those guys making plays, particularly Owe, Tavius Robinson. And look, Malik Harrison played really well last year. Not just against the run, into the boundary, taking pass drops. Are you going to get much out of him rushing the passer? No. In my opinion, Van Noy is not coming back to play 50, 55 snaps a game. The Ravens' plan is going to be to use all of those guys that I just mentioned, maybe only 5 of them over the course of an actual game. In fact, I hope early in the season we see a reduced number for Van Noy, 25, 30, 32. That salary number doesn't mean that we have to commit so many snaps to him, and then eventually we get an increase in his playing time in the bigger moments, the bigger games, and bigger situations. I think it's a great signing. I love the salary number because we know what we're going to get. There's a minimum output here with Van Noy. He's consistent, smart, very savvy mid-play, redirects very well. One of the things I'll try to show once we get to the film. And he seems very positive and appreciative of the environment in Baltimore. Everything that he said was full of class last year. I'm glad they were able to get a deal done. Let's get a little bit of film going here that's going to be organized different than normal for Van Noy. I think I did 2 other Kyle Van Noy videos during the season, mostly trying to display his versatility. That's not what we're going to go for here right off the bat. With Van Noy returning and a 2-year deal at that, on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, you're going to get him, Owe, maybe Ojabo if he's healthy and he can perform like the Ravens want him to, like the Ravens need him to. But look, the film of Van Noy shows a guy who has all the moves. And when executing all those moves, executes them quickly with precision, such that he doesn't give defense or offensive linemen, running backs, tight ends, many good choices at all. Very smart, if you ask me, in his rush moves. It seems like he does exquisite preparation during the week for those few opportunities that he would get in a game in 2023 to actually rush the passer. There was a lot of guys that were hungry to get sacks, and Van Noy was the guy who took advantage of a ton of them. Didn't matter whether he was rushing against left tackles or right tackles. One thing I really loved from watching the film during the season and now is his ability to redirect during the play. You don't really get a sense of it here. He's just pretty much overwhelming the right tackle for the 49ers in Week 16, dropping him right back in Brock Purdy's field of vision in his lap. First guy to arrive, which happened often. It was either him or Clowney, I should say. His ability to redirect, I think, is noticeable. He doesn't play the game like a guy who just turned 33. To me, he operates athletically and in an explosive manner like a guy who's 26, 27 years old. I love this play because the spin, first of all, is tight from him that he uses multiple times. I think 3 times in this video. Stunts to the inside here, trying to win. Clowney went to the top side. So some of that is pre-programmed, pre-snap. One guy going high side, one guy going low. And then the spin back towards Tua to redirect towards the quarterback and get himself another sack. You see the ability to redirect multiple times. And I think that's one of the things that the Ravens, one of the reasons I should say the Ravens decided to bring him back. My suspicion is that the Ravens were trying to bring him back all along, that they had been trying to re-sign him since the end of the season or since they could do so. This is the same play, end zone angle, Week 9 at home against Seattle. I think Matabike ends up getting the sack, but you see a great example of another rush move, a different move than the ones that I've shown you. The spin inside against the Texans. Here, an actual speed rush, edge rush, where he's dipping low. He's still got the hips and the flexibility to be able to do that. Is he going to use that move or those speed rush outside moves 6, 8, 10 times a game? No, he's not that kind of athlete, but he's damn sure good enough to get the job done with all the multiple types of moves that he can throw out there. Another example of it, I don't have the end zone angle of this one. First game that he played in, this may have been one of the first times that I saw him on the field. I was struck by this immediately. We had a huge advantage, obviously, going against DTR, the quarterback there for the Browns. But this ability to get around the edge and threaten the tackle was different than some of the film I had seen of him against the Chargers the season before, ending of 2022. And I actually did a film study video in training camp last year, kind of showing, hey, we should pick this guy up. Lo and behold, the Ravens ended up doing so once the season started. Again, the ability to redirect here. This is a stunt. He's moving inside, occupying the tackle, basically, such that Marlon Humphrey can blitz off the edge. Running back Reynolds is able to ride Humphrey out of there. His ability to redirect or reorient himself back towards the football, wherever it went, whether it was the quarterback, running back, tight end, or someone who caught the football, kind of stood out to me, along with all the skills that he has. The skills against run plays, the pass rush moves, techniques, the tightness of the spin. All of those things are to be expected in a guy who has his resume and has played in the NFL this long, is still active. But the ability to redirect from an athletic and explosive standpoint, I thought was notable, and it stood out even more tonight as I sat down to look at some of the film after hearing the announcement that he had re-signed. I think that athleticism is also on display against the pass, whether he's dropping out in coverage or sees something that gives him pause, like this play here, Week 12 against the Chargers, wide open out into the flats. Only Van Noy's effort prevents a first down on the 3rd and 1. or an even bigger gain up the right sideline. Brilliant timing. And he doesn't panic because maybe he recognizes or knows that the guy's wide open behind him. I don't think so. There's no way for him to know that we've messed up the coverage to his side of the field. But he does. Some guys jump too early. He has this exquisite timing when he tips passes. Whatever drills he was exposed to, it could just be natural instincts and intelligence and ability to adapt during the play. Don't get me wrong. I suspect there were some drills ingrained into him at some point in time, perhaps in New England, about how to jump, when to time it. Again, this was the first game he played with us. I think Cleveland's second possession, he comes right out and gets a tipped pass on a 3rd and 4 to help us get a stop. Some guys have overwhelming physical ability as an outside linebacker. I don't think he's one of those. I think he's good enough in all categories. Some guys have a one great move. To me, Van Noy is really, really good at everything that he's asked to do. 3rd and 7, you knew this play had to show up, and there was no way I wasn't going to show this one. Forgive me, I think it's the 3rd time I've actually talked about this play in a film study video. 3rd and 7 at home against the Rams. This brilliant play on a 3rd and 7 holds LA to a field goal, which was a considerable development. I think ends up being a loss of 8 on a screen to Kyron Williams. It's a brilliant football player. I think it's a great signing. Perhaps you're not as pleased by it as I am. Maybe you wanted the Ravens to draft someone at 30 that was an outside linebacker that could come in and get 10 sacks a season. Look, is Van Noy going to get 10 sacks this year? Probably not. I mean, I wouldn't venture to say that he does, but as a floor, the Ravens now have signed a guy who's going to be able to disrupt all manners of plays, get to the quarterback multiple times a game, possibly capitalize on those sacks, depending on the other rushers that are on the field with him. He's dropping out here. This will be the last pass drop that I show you. Actually bumps into DeAndre Hopkins. I think that's kind of incidental. But what I like is what he does next. Recognizes that it's a pass play. Queen and Clowney are in there to get after the quarterback. Watch him look for work. He will look for work from the other side of the field. This is an outside linebacker who spends considerable time working against the run, trying to block destruction and get against the work against the run, rush the passer, so he's got to work on all those requisite moves, be able to execute all the stunts that we do. And when he drops out in pass coverage, he will do what's called sneak a peek or ping pong eyes. People have different names for it. You'll see him twice. Again, Hopkins and him, incidental contact. Watch him look for work twice for the crosser coming from the other side of the field. There's the second one. It's a brilliant football player. Does his resume cause excitement compared to all the other free agent signings that are out there? Probably not for other people. It does for me. Because I think Kyle Van Noy is just another chess piece, another guy on the first level of the defense who can be very versatile, very multiple, and do all of those things that, even though Mike McDonald has moved on, allows us to give one look pre-snap and then post-snap, get into a totally different coverage and give the quarterback pause such that the rush can get there and we can be more effective than maybe we should be because we're so versatile and multiple. 3 examples of Van Noy's ability against the run. This is pre-programmed, or this is predetermined in terms of if the left tackle and tight end both step to Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Van Noy, Marlon's going to loop outside, and then Patrick Queen's going to take the inside gap. But watch what Van Noy does to this tight end. When he decides to engage tight ends in a physical manner with 2 hands, keeping his outside arm free, there is literally no tight end that I've seen film of in 2023 that's going to do anything with the guy. Pure ass kicker against the run when we put him in that mode. Think of the Terminator, if you're old like I am, going down the list of options of possible responses. If you give Van Noy the directive, go attack the tight end, stop the run to your side on this play, to the exclusion of rushing the passer, he will absolutely annihilate tight ends like you're going to see on this play and like you're going to see 2 plays later here against the Rams. I think he's a great player against the run, very savvy. 3rd and 1 here in the playoffs at home. You're going to see a gap exchange between him and Queen. Ends up tackling Singletary, who tries to jump cut around him. goes for no gain, and we end up getting a stop, I think, one play later. When I said that he had the clutch gene earlier, I truly meant it. He had it with the Patriots years ago when they won the Super Bowls, and he still apparently retains it. I really like this play against the Rams. Didn't think we had a great game plan early, to be real. This is third quarter. We finally decided to get hands on the tight end and impede his release, meaning not allow the tight end to get a free release up to the second level, maybe to an inside linebacker, or what the Rams actually like to do a lot of was step the tight end out to the edge defender, outside linebacker, in this case Van Noy, and then take Nakua or some other receiver and Jill ISO insert inside the C gap, basically exchange responsibilities. And in this case, Van Noy tightens up his alignment just before the snap, or right as the snap, I should say, drives the tight end back. I probably should have shown you the all-22 angle. I forget who the jackass was that tried to tell me this wasn't a good play against the run. Hopefully he'll speak up in the comment sections again. If you had the all-22 keyed up for you here, what you'd see is the line of scrimmage roughly here, and the tight end basically getting driven further back than anyone else on the offensive line because he's matched up with Kyle Van Noy. Is Kyle Van Noy going to do that, be able to drive back the left guard or the right tackle? No. And that's the whole point. From a strategic standpoint, you can use Kyle Van Noy against tight ends in run situations because he's going to win that matchup, in my opinion, even in 2024, 9 out of 10 times. If you've listened this long, you obviously can tell how I feel about this signing or re-signing. I loved picking up Kyle Van Noy last year once the season started. Thought it was brilliant, added depth. Did anyone foresee him playing as well as he did? No, including myself. Would I have been surprised at all last year in 2023 if he had ended up with 6 or 7 or maybe even pushing 8 sacks, with 2 or 3 of those sacks being created by the overall pressure from the pass rush on the particular snap? No, I wouldn't have been surprised. I would have taken 6 or 7 snaps immediately if you had offered it. As much as I liked the signing then, I love it now because we're bringing back someone that was involved last year, a pseudo player coach. I don't think he would prefer to be referred to in that way, but very experienced, seen it all, done it all, executed everything. And in the NFL, he's had great experiences. Last year with the Ravens, obviously his time with the Patriots, and he's had some experiences that didn't work out very well, the Chargers and the Lions being 2 of them. Let me know if you share my feelings about the Ravens bringing him back on a 2-year deal, no less. I think that part of it is also underrated because I'm not saying we don't have to address outside linebacker at all in the next 2 years, but it gives us some security, stability, and knowledge that we have someone there who can get the job done no matter what he's asked to do on a play-by-play basis. I think there's really something to be said for that. I understand if other people don't have the same opinion. A lot of other teams out there, the Houston Texans being the main one, have made splash signings or trades recently, and the Ravens have been obviously more quiet, with most of our players leaving, a few determining that they would agree to come back, and Kyle Van Noy was the most recent one. I think it's an underrated signing. Really great move by the front office. Sets us up to focus the draft in on a smaller number of positions, unless a fantastic football player was to fall to us at one of the later picks in the draft. I appreciate you guys' time, man. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this video, this film study / commentary about Kyle Van Noy re-signing with the Ravens, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.